Be Still, Part 2 by Emmet Fox, an excerpt from Power Through Constructive Thinking. Every student of truth must understand that God always acts through us by changing our consciousness. We learn in divine metaphysics that God never does anything to us or for us, but always through us. The writer drives these points home in the familiar Bible manner by adding, a very present help in trouble. The opening affirmation is followed in the most scientific way by an excellent example of the use of what is called in metaphysics the denial. The next two verses are a denial that there is any power in conditions to make us be or do or submit to anything short of the complete all-around harmony that is the divine will for us all. It says, therefore, will not we fare? As following logically upon our opening affirmation, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. The earth, of course, means manifestation. It is the Bible's term for all one's manifestation or expression. The body, the home, the business life, relatives and associates, all come under the heading of the earth or the land. We know that all these outer things are but the expression of inner states of consciousness. And here the psalmist makes us say that though the earth be removed, though all these outer things seem to go to pieces, our health break down, our money disappear, our friends desert us, yet we are not going to be afraid. This attitude is extraordinarily valuable. When things are going wrong, declare constantly that you are not going to be afraid or intimidated by any outer condition. The more afraid you find yourself, the more need is there for doing this. The most important time to say, God is my refuge, I am not going to be afraid, is when your knees are knocking together. The psalmist says that though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, and the waters roll and tremble until the very mountains themselves seem to shake, he is not going to be afraid. The mountain in the Bible always means prayer, the uplifted consciousness. And this clause makes us declare that even when in the midst of our prayers, things seem to get worse, so that the very prayers themselves are all but swamped by our terror or doubt or despair, yet we are going to hold on to the truth about God, knowing that even though it be after 40 days, the waters will subside. If only we hold on to the thought of God. The waters, of course, are always the human personality, and more especially the emotions. The man who wrote this, we will agree, had no small knowledge of the human heart, its difficulties, and its needs. There is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. This is the capital river mentioned several times in Scripture. the river of life that flows from the throne of God. It means the understanding of truth that is verily the waters of life to those who attain it. The river as a symbol is rather interesting. Primarily, it stands for purpose. A river means purpose because it is always going somewhere. A river does not stay in one place like a lake or even an ocean, but it is always on the way to a destination. In this respect, it is a true type of the dedicated life which every student of divine truth is supposed to be living. In this teaching, if it really means anything to us, we are no longer drifting about like a log at the mercy of the ride, but are definitely headed along the pathway of understanding and freedom. The city of God is man's consciousness. Your consciousness, which is your identity in life, is called a city in the Bible. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. Now the consciousness in which the light of truth begins to shine again after an attack of fear or unhappiness is a city purified by that holy river, and it becomes a glad city, a city of God or good, a holy place for the tabernacles of the Most High. God is indeed in the midst of such a city, and when God, which is to say, our realization of God, is in the midst of our consciousness, then truly we shall not be moved. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. Here the psalmist adds one of those simple touches expressed in the most direct and childlike language that goes straight to the heart. He says, God shall help her, and that right early. This beautiful promise should remove the last traces of fear and doubt that may linger in the dark corners of the soul. The metrical rhythm of the poem is preserved by a reiteration of the general theme in the next verse. The heathens rage, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The heathen, needless to say, means your own wrong thoughts, those fears, doubts, self-reproaches, and shortcomings of every kind that come between you and your realization of God. The heathen forces that attack the holy city of your soul. Sometimes lay siege to it for days and weeks, and sometimes even capture and occupy it for a time. Only for a time, however, if you hold steadfastly to God by constant prayer, for sooner or later, as surely as God lives, the kingdom of error shall be moved. He will utter his voice through your prayers and affirmations, and your salvation will come.